Mike McConville here one more time, Stratford, Ontario, Canada for String Tech Workstations. We have a 1951 Epiphone Regent guitar that you saw a couple of videos back. I've finally gotten around to getting back to this one. I've been bouncing from machine shop to machine shop to get these fretting kits and the bridge slotting jig and all the leveling blocks ready for my Patreon subscribers. Now on the other tech deck, on the GPS unit, we've got a 1964 Strat custom shop reissue. Let me bring you a little closer. This is a pretty cool looking guitar. I generally don't like the sort of distressed, you know, the road-worn thing, but they've really kind of done this. It's quite believable the way they did this, the custom shop. So this is 11 to 49 strings at concert pitch. He does not use the tremolo bar. We're going to see if there's enough K value in those springs at concert pitch with the 11 to 49s. We may need a little helper spring in there. So this is the back, and you know, it's quite believable the way they've done the distressing on this one. It doesn't look like someone dragged it down a gravel road. It actually looks like real wear. Very artistically done. Even a little sort of gouge in here. That's all believable stuff. It doesn't look as ridiculous as some of the other ones I've seen. Beautiful neck on this. Obviously slab sawn, curly maple. Derek obviously loves this guitar, but tuning problems. So we're going to address that. As always, play by play, step by step. We'll show you exactly what we do. Now to refresh your memory on this Epiphone, you can see that fingerboard is sort of lifting. First of all, you can see there's like a filler piece underneath the fingerboard. So this was off and put back on. You can also see there's sort of a riser block for the nut. So there was some extensive work done to this quite a few years ago. So that is the adjustment for the truss rod. It needs a complete refret anyway. There's nothing left of these frets. So they're coming out regardless of what else we do. That riser strip for the fingerboard and the truss rod looks like that was kind of a retrofit. I've got a feeling I'm going to slip this whole thing off just so that I know I've got 100% control. So we will start by getting this plate off and having a look at what's in there now as far as springs go. We have 4 springs in there now. Okay, so let's flip this over and see what we've got. So with 4 springs, no, that's right down tight. So those 4 springs are definitely doing the trick. Looking at the lay of the neck on this one, and looks pretty good. There is a little bit of rise on the treble side. Well, you know, I can see that there is a little bit of a swoop at that top end. And we'll get a better idea once we loosen these strings off. And this one's getting a compensated nut, of course, so the nice thing about these early ones is the nuts were bone, so I can heat that up, slip it out. He can keep the original nut, and we'll fit the compensated nut, and he can tune this guitar for the first time since he's owned it. So after loosening that that tension off, of course, we are going to have a back bow. As you've seen me do in so many other videos, I just want to make sure that we get the lay of the neck as straight as possible. So I've got a 6-inch straight edge here. I'm going to kind of start with that and kind of check it along its length and across the board, fret to fret. So looks pretty good. Just try my 10-inch here. Yeah, that looks good. Oh, get a little bit of space there. So yeah, we have a little bit of a high spot right here. And that, of course, is very common, the most common fret dress. You've seen me do this in hundreds of other videos. Not very much. Lay of the neck is pretty good on this one. We'll just level that little high spot in there. Frets look very healthy on this. I think they're quite a bit higher than those original ones would have been back in 1964. These are 94 by 55 frets, so similar to the Stevie Ray Vaughan Strat. He started a whole movement with that tall medium fret. And obviously it's the fret of choice, even in my own shop, probably 5-to-1. Okay, so let's get on with it. We've got to heat up that nut and get that out. Okay, there are a couple of spots on this one. Definitely right here at the 12th on the base side. Yep, looks like it's all the way across. Oh, there's a little hint of a high spot here. Not on this side. So this is another argument for removing the nut. So I can go full length unobstructed. Alright, that's it. We're ready to level. So the idea here is the body's supported, and it's very strong right here where the maple neck is bolted into the body. There's no flex here. You don't have to worry about that. The neck support basically slides and pivots to support the neck along the portion of the neck that is the most flexible. So this longer portion that's been carved away is the flexible portion of the neck that's backed up by the pivoting neck support with the telescopic blocks. So now I can go ahead and level. These are the little leveling files that I've made up for my Patreon subscribers that I put in their kit. So we're moving obliquely across the radius and back the other way. This does not need too much. It was enough to inhibit the ability to be able to bring this action down to where Derek would like to have it. And there's a little tiny high spot right here on the base side. Now that I've got those two spots, now, and only now with the nut removed, I basically make my way up the fingerboard. And I have to mention this again because it's very important. The file always moves in the trajectory of the string path. Now I move obliquely like this because it goes over top of the radius, overlapping those strokes so that we make sure that we touch all of the frets all the way along the entire length of the fingerboard. So we'll take this straight edge again and check it where it was clicking. Not anymore. That was enough. It's gone. Here? Nope. Done. And that makes the difference between it being almost right and being perfect. Now, of course, the high spots need to be recrowned. This is sort of squared off a little bit. It does not need a lot. That's the beauty of these tall medium frets. You got tons of real estate to play with. So once again, I have to mention this again, I never touch the center of the crown with the crowning file. All I'm doing is taking that sharp edge off. And for those of you that have been following my channel, especially my Patreon subscribers, you know that I have a different way of doing things than you traditionally sort of see online or elsewhere. Okay, so I pretty well got a little bit of squareness here. Get rid of that. Beautiful. We're not finishing it with the crowning file. We're just taking off that squareness, and the scrub block is going to do the rest for us. At this point, I switch over to these scrub blocks that I've made up for you guys. This is like a flexible vinyl mat. So what it does is as you go over the frets, it allows the sandpaper to distort and slur over those crowns, so you're essentially scrubbing them back to center. And I do have two straps on the body so that the guitar's not slopping around while I'm doing this. So the neck support basically restricts the flex of the neck. The body support just holds the whole thing steady while I'm working. Let me step it up to 600. Here's our 600. And I have a second piece of 600 here to really bring this up. So conveniently, we happen to get rid of the little bit of wear mark that was in those upper 4 or 5 frets in the process of doing this whole leveling, recrown, and polish. Okay, now we're ready to polish. You've seen me do this enough times, but I will take a second to explain what I'm doing. So I've got some Jeweler's Rouge compound, and I'm basically loading up the strop with that compound so that we can buff these frets to their final sheen. So now we're just basically cleaning off the residue of the compound. We're going to get a tracing onto this tongue depressor off the crown of these upper frets. Okay, we'll get another tracing off of that. So a question that my level 2 students would often ask is, in the case of a compound radius, which radius do you go with? Well, you go with the radius closest to the bridge. And I would say take a little bit more off the center, and that is the radius we're after. That's our concave radius gauge. Now we're going to make a convex radius gauge. Oh, by the way, these are the sets of straight edges that I've made up for those fretting kits, and they will be packaged and shipped in the next week. We have to get all the proper HS codes for customs for all you US guys. So we use this concave gauge that we just made up to make a convex gauge that we can use for adjusting the saddles for a perfect match for the fingerboard radius. Now you saw me just flip that 180. The reason I do that is it basically takes out any human error. So I trace it once, flip it, trace it twice. So now we'll cut this out on the bandsaw. So next I cut with the disc sander and the foot switch. I have this disc sander on an air foot switch, and I cut that final radius like so by hand. Okay, so now that I've got that perfect radius match, it's a little too high, so we're going to take it down to that line on the edge sander. Okay, so now I've got a piece of two-sided tape on the bottom of this thing. We got that leftover foam from a recent pickup install, and we're just going to press that on like so, and we'll just slice that with a razor blade. Let's put this tuner over here so you can see it clearly. You see that? Yeah, okay. So this is what everyone does, right? You play the open string, right? And then the 12th fret. Right? Okay. Well, what about the 7th fret? Oh, that's like 4 cents sharp. What about the octave? 8 cents flat. next string, once again, what everybody does, and 12th fret, right? Perfect, right? Those are the only two notes on that string that are perfect. Let's try the 7th fret. 4 cents sharp. What about the octave? 3 cents flat. Okay, D string. Okay, 12th fret. Good, that's perfect, right? Well, I don't know, is it perfect? Let's try this 7th fret. Here's our 7th fret. That looks pretty good. What about the octave? Yeah, it's 5 cents flat. And octave. Good. 7th fret. 3 cents sharp. And 8 cents flat. Trouble in paradise here. Okay, so that's our B string open, and sounds pretty good, right? Very close, right? Okay, well, what about the 7th fret? 4 cents sharp, 4 cents flat, and the 1st string, and 12th fret. Right, so that's the way everybody intonates a guitar. Am I wrong? You tell me. Open string, 12th fret. They were perfect, right? All the way across. Let's try the 7th. Okay. That looks pretty good. What about the octave? Yeah, it's 4 cents flat. Okay, so let's take it one step further. So for the Patreon guys here, we're giving you a little more detail. We do have a perfect radius for that adjustable radius gauge. This affects the intonation too. It has to match perfectly. We did tune the 7th fret note and then its corresponding octave all the way across. So essentially the guitar from the 7th fret up is perfectly in tune. Now, and only now, we go to the compensated nut. Okay, so now we can zip those strings off again. Turn that volume down. And that nut has already been heated up and scored all the way around and slipped out. We're through the danger zone. Now we're going to do our compensated nut. Now this is probably the most demanding compensated nut to do, because you can see the depth of that slot. There's almost nothing. As far as the leg that goes into that slot, there's almost nothing there. So I'm going to use that curvature on our nut blank to sort of keep us in line. Well, as you've heard me say in countless other videos, we'll use that nut as our guide for the compensated nut. So I've made that a little bit too long. Got a little bit of forgiveness on either side. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to thin down this portion of the nut. Like I was saying, this is kind of the trickiest compensated nut that you're going to come across. So I just kind of scoring that first and kind of bring it down so that this leg fits into that slot. That's my first step. So of course 0.125 is our natural width, which is 1/8 of an inch, and we are at, this is way oversized, yeah, 173. Okay, we got to bring that down a little further. So I'm tracing this concave radius, this one, to make a convex radius gauge. Okay, so now I'm tracing that radius onto, and again I'll flip it just to kind of eliminate any minute human error. So then, yeah, just kind of flip it around and retrace it again to make sure we got it right. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so now we're going to cut this down. Okay, so now we've got this radius done. We've got this radius. Now I'll go back to the concave radius gauge to get that crown to match. Okay, now we've got the crown radius, the underside of the crown radius, and the leg that goes into the fingerboard radius. So now we're going to do our final thickness to get a press fit. Because this is so shallow, you can see how these vintage fenders are the most challenging to make a compensated nut. And when we're done, you're going to hear it. You're going to be able to compare the tuning test at the beginning of the video and then when we're done with the compensated nut. It's actually 131 right tight to the corner. It's oversized, which is good. A little bit thinner on this edge, 124. It should be 125. Pretty darn close. Now that does actually press fit in there, but you can see how much we've got to take down off that leg to get the ledge to rest on the rosewood fingerboard. So we'll just score that all the way across and bring that down. Okay, so we'll take that string off now. So what I need to do is I need to move the focal point on that low E string back this way because the note is sharp. We need to lengthen the string, just like at the other end, to buy back what we need. So. Okay, I'm checking it again after that first cut. It's still a little sharp. It's got to come back a little more. Slip our feeler gauge in there, and again we're going to nip off just a little bit more. We're going to come back and check it again. I'm going to tune to that note. Okay, what I've got here is a bunch of feeler gauges stacked and then a rubber band. So I've got those feeler gauges stacked there, and then I just file down until I touch the feeler gauges and I know I'm still in the safety zone. Oh, we kind of went over top on that last one. Yeah, I'm going to get that last string while I'm at it. slip that out. I want to give you this angle so you can see what this is. The second last step we're doing now, and I want to give you this angle so you can see what's going on. So we've got our 12th fretted note. So the two outside E's are intonated. I've already cut the values. The middle four, I've left them so you can kind of follow me as I do that. So that string now, everything's in tune except for the fretted first note. It's sharp. We're going to take care of that later, but I just wanted to demonstrate. And open. Okay, so that string's in tune. First fret in this case. Well, it's pretty close actually. Okay, so now we're going to do the middle four strings. So here's our A string. Take your time and make sure you tune that fretted note. Don't death grip it and don't play too lightly, just a nice controlled fretting hand. And open. So you can see it's 5 cents sharp. So we've got to cut that ledge back, and that's what we're going to do. There's our fretted note, 12th fret. A little flat. Let's bring it up. And open. It's still a little sharp. You really want to proceed with caution because you've got a lot of time invested up to this stage. Fretted note. And open. The tiniest little bit sharp. Man, I gotta just breeze that right now. There's our 12th fret, and open. We're there. Fretted 12th fret D string, and open. Okay, that's got to be cut back as well. Okay, so now we fret that 12th fret note, D string, and open. Still a little short. Tiniest bit sharp. Okay. Split second. So fretted 12th fret note and open. And there's a third string. And open. Okay, you can see it's quite a bit sharp. Flat at the bridge, let's bring that forward. That's our third string. Okay, here we go, moment of truth. So our last task is to, last step is the open string and fret first fret. Still sharp. It's got to come down a little bit. Okay, live with that. First string. There we go, man. This is 100% perfectly in tune. Let's have a look at the finished values. Now we make it look pretty. So we're going to take all the excess off. Man, you want to be so careful at this point. You've put so much work into this thing. Don't rush it at this stage. It's almost flush on the outside here. In fact, I could move it over just a little bit. And I'm just going to sharpen this pencil. Just kind of mark this on the underside. And on the underside here, very sharp pencil. And the leading edge of the leg here, and the underside of the ledge. Okay, so we're going to take this off. Okay, so now, for the last time, we loosen this new set of strings, loosen them off. It's only twice now that we sort of tightened and loosened the new set. I used the old set for 90% of the job, did all my ultra tweaking with a brand new set of strings. Okay, so let's bring this over to the sander. Okay, I'm getting that underside. Man, this side just needs to be touched. And this side, we take a little bit more off it. Watch those fingertips. See how fragile this nut is. Oh man. You get this far, you definitely don't want to blow it at this point. I just remember so many level 2 classes where these guys would get right to this point and then bust it in half. It's super fragile. We're ready to spread some glue. Let's twirl a little bit of glue in there. No super glue, just wood glue is fine. Okay, the string tension is going to basically hold that in place. We'll get under there to wipe that up. Tune this up for the last time. Okay, let's let's do that tuning test again now that everything's been set up. We'll start with the open string and first fret notes. So that is our compensated nut for the 11 to 49, 25.5-inch scale at concert pitch. So that's all 6 strings open and all 6 strings first fret note. Much more precise than the before video. Now we'll do the 7th fret note and corresponding octave. Okay, now 7th fret and 19th. A string 7th fret and octave. And then D string 7th fret and octave. And G string. Second string, and the first string, and octave. The very last thing we're going to do is play the 12th fret note and the open string, all the way across. Second string, 12th fret, and open. Third string, fourth string, fifth string, and sixth string. Here are the final values for that compensated nut, 11 to 49 strings, tuned to concert pitch. So I've recorded a little progression here, 1, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, and an E flat this time. So I'm just going to let that play and blow over top. So here goes. So here's another way that you can kind of do a cross-sectional check of your intonation and your tuning. I'll use this sometimes just sort of on the fly if I don't have a tuner handy and I just want to make sure the guitar is in tune with itself. I'll play this harmonic here, 7th fret of the 5th string, and tune that to the open first. And then I'll play this harmonic, 7th fret of the low E, and tune that to the open B string. For the center 2 strings, I basically check these 2 fretted notes. Another quick tuning check that I showed my students many, many years ago was to play the open 6th string in this case, and then a 5th, and then move it up to the 5th fret, up to the 7th, up to the 10th. And do that same thing on the next group of strings. Here I'm playing a 4th, and then changing it to a 5th. Now the fingering changes a little bit for the next group of strings. And the top group missing a fret there. And of course the other check that you see me do over and over and over again on various videos is just playing the same chord in different positions on the neck. So we have our infamous E major 9 chord. But you can also just play a garden variety G chord. Or C. F. And then D, which you know that F sharp is always out of tune. Not now. So Derek will be able to play this guitar perfectly in tune for the first time since he's owned it. And the other tuning check, of course, is the 6ths with the 10th on top. The other sort of group of harmonic mechanisms that I've used over and over again, the 6th with the 10th on top, and in the middle set of strings, and then in the lower set of strings. So I'll kind of move that around the neck, sort of plucking the chords, all 3 notes simultaneously. Okay, here's a C minor thing I can blow over.
you.